Welcome to Mom and Mind. This is a podcast all about perinatal mental health and wellness related to conception, pregnancy, birth, loss, postpartum, and new parenthood. But more than that, we aim to deepen our truths, shed light on real issues, speak about our pain, feel understood, and offer a path to healing. We raise the volume on these topics in hopes that someday everyone will have the support and information that they deserve before they need it. Please note this podcast is not a replacement for treatment by a professional or professional training. Welcome back to Mom and Mind. I'm your host, Dr. Kat. Today, I want to talk with you about what happens for you when you hear another person share their pregnancy, loss, or postpartum story. I'm talking specifically to the people who are or have experienced a perinatal mood change like depression, anxiety, PTSD, bipolar, or psychosis, or a pregnancy loss at any stage of pregnancy, or any situation that is similar to yours that falls within the realm of a perinatal mood change or perinatal experience that was stressful for you. What is your experience when you hear others talk about what they went through? What happens for you in your mind, body, and soul when you feel reflected in other people's stories? There seems to be such power in listening and being reflected out in the world. In fact, I know there is power in that because it was my experience too. I remember when I was just coming to grips with my postpartum depression and anxiety, I felt shame. I felt like hiding. I felt like I was supposed to feel the way that I was. Let me restate. I felt shame. I felt like hiding. I felt like I wasn't supposed to feel the way that I was feeling. It felt like a secret. It was an embarrassment. It felt unacceptable. That first phase felt like me just trying to get my feet on the ground and find my bearings. And I call it a phase because that's what it felt like. It felt like a process just to wrap my mind around what was going on. And that was a process that took time. I stayed in that place for a while, feeling disoriented, feeling stuck, feeling overwhelmed. Then fast forward a bit, I recall the first time I heard a person share their story of postpartum mood disorder. I was already starting to specialize in perinatal mental health. I'd read books and felt relief from that for sure. But when I heard the mom talk about her experience, and I felt like I could identify with what she was saying, I felt such relief, so much. And I fully realized in that moment that it wasn't just me. It was so powerful that I felt almost pulled to go share my story too, because it resonated on such a deep level. But then simultaneously, I felt pulled right back into my seat by that shame. It took me a little bit of time before I felt comfortable really sharing my story. I told some people some details, but still left out the most difficult parts. I knew I wasn't alone in my struggle anymore, but I still wasn't sure that I would be accepted if I told my story. Slowly, as I heard more from other people, I shared more. I said, yeah, I went through that too, or mine was different, but I understand, I get it. Then again, a bit later, the deeper I was in my discovery and learning, I started really feeling like I had a tribe of women with shared experience. Every time I heard a story, it was like a small weight being lifted off. One more story that I could resonate with, one other detail that I hadn't heard yet that made me remember my own pain and also relieved that pain. I could really know that I for sure was not alone. And frankly, by that time, I didn't care if I was accepted anymore. And by that time, I didn't care so much if I was accepted or not because of my story. Because I knew that if I wasn't accepted, that it was those people who were wrong. They didn't understand. I finally did. Even as I started this podcast in 2016, I'd been sharing my story openly, claiming my experience, but still I felt that pull of shame when sharing some of my story on episode 1 because it was going out into the world. But thankfully I had reached a point in the years before that where my passion for helping moms overruled that shame and I just kept at it. Almost indignant, like, you will listen to me, you have to. because mothers and babies' lives depend on you knowing the truth. And I really love that feeling. It's such an empowered feeling now. The difference, night and day difference between how I felt in the beginning and how I feel and look about it and how I feel and think about it now is so different. But it was a process to get to this point. Now, I still speak for myself, but I really, really speak for the moms who can't yet, or who don't want to, or who may never utter a word to anyone. But at least there is some place out there in the world that they are reflected. My story isn't every woman's story, but it is parts of some women's stories. And I've come to see that the more I speak, the more we all speak up and raise the volume, the better off all mothers will be. The more exposure, the better. And I get really, really grateful when a celebrity shares their story because their reach is so big. So shout out to all of you ladies who have talked about your experience and been real with the world. Brooke Shields did a while ago, and that really was great for the cause. And more recently, people like Adele, Chrissy Teigen, and Serena Williams, and really so many more. It's heartbreaking to know that they suffer, and then they also have to deal with all of the haters and jerks who don't get it, who troll them on social media and offer nothing but negativity. Parts of what we are worried that we're going to experience, and sometimes do experience from people for sure, but they are taking a very public stance and they're putting their vulnerability out into the world, which ultimately benefits those of us who've been through it. But they're getting, met with some jerks who don't get it and who shame them. And that's a small percentage of people who behave in that way. Mostly, I see that so many women are grateful and thankful, and it helps them feel seen and heard in the world. It really puts a spotlight on these very significant realities for mothers. And it also shows that it doesn't matter how much money or fame or help you have. Perinatal mood changes can happen to any woman. So when you're hearing an experience of a woman, whether it's a celebrity or somebody that you know or somebody that you're just hearing of, what is your experience when you hear their story? Have you ever told anyone your truth? Have you ever been held with care and love while you shed your pain? You don't have to share your story with the world in order to heal. Not at all. You could share it with a friend, someone who you feel safe and comfortable with, a trained therapist, a trusted community member. But even if you never share your story, please believe that you're not alone out there. There's a tribe, a crew, a critical mass of women and people who really get it and who will embrace you. The hope of this podcast and platform is to offer some way that you are all reflected out in the world. It will take a while to address every single nuance and aspect of perinatal mental health to make sure that everyone's absolutely covered. But that is part of the goal here, is to do as much as we can. And in that, there will be parts of your story that are reflected here in our discussions. Maybe not in one single episode, but across several. If there are moms or dads or new parents who are listening who do want to share here on the podcast, please reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. I'm at momandmind@gmail.com. And for some of you, this may not be the place that you feel comfortable, that you would want to share your story. So search for a place that you do. There are really great people doing really great work that may better reflect your needs. Additionally, if you're not reflected here on the podcast in some form or in multiple forms, let us know. Email us, reach out. We put all of your ideas and thoughts for episodes on our list for topics to cover. And over time, we really do hope to get to all of those. I thank you guys so much for being here. And again, please reach out to us if you feel compelled to do so with your ideas, with your thoughts, with your story. Even if you don't want your story to go public and you just need to share it with someone, you're welcome to email us. So we'll wrap up for today. Please do share this with somebody who you think could benefit from understanding the importance of story or who needs the support of this podcast. For this and all episodes of Mom and Mind, please find us at www.momandmind.com and connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, thank you for joining us today. Our hope is that you leave here feeling heard, understood, and hopeful. Please share this podcast. Together we can support moms and families so that no one has to deal with this alone. Come and connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Mom and Mind.